Now, I confess that the last verse, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light," has been wonderfully problematic for me, since I have experienced tribulation somewhat regularly along Christ's path of discipleship. Now, you probably aren't like me, but I have been known to mutter under my breath, "I wonder if I can sue for false advertising. How is this easy and light?" Of course, that's just when I'm feeling a bit ornery. I truly, fully believe that there is no deception in Christ. So I know he meant what he said. I just haven't fully understood it. As I have pondered this phrase and tried to reconcile it with all of my experiences, I have come to see it in a new way. It seems that the previous verse holds the key. What if Christ's yoke is the Father's will? Plain, simple, easy. And what if we consider light as a noun instead of an adjective? We don't often think of light as a burden. However, remember the scriptures that teach where much is given, much is required? Receiving light brings duty and responsibility. Some scriptural synonyms for light are truth, glory, and love. When I read verse 30 in this way, it takes on a whole new meaning for me. For my yoke is the Father's will, and my burden is light, truth, glory, and love. So how do we take Christ's yoke upon us? Simple. We follow him and strive to emulate him. His perfect obedience to God's commandments, both universal and personal, illustrate not only a perfect love for our Father, but also a perfect submission of his will to the Father's. Christ's example of submission is so perfect that we sometimes miss the truth that Christ actually had his own will. We see Christ's will, however, as he obeyed the Father's personal commandment to him to bring about the atonement. We see it in these words Christ prayed, "Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." Here we clearly see Christ's will, which is separate from the Father's. We also clearly see his perfect and complete submission, for he accepted his burden and suffered in Gethsemane, and during the illegal Sanhedrin trial, and in Pilate's palace, and at Golgotha. He sacrificed his life even when the Father withdrew his spirit and left him alone. When we obey God's commandments and diligently try to follow the doctrines of Christ, we put off large portions of the natural man. However, remnants still remain. These remnants are the part of ourselves that are centered on self rather than being centered on others. Eliminating these remnants that are deeply embedded in our souls is not an easy task. Sometimes we don't even know certain aspects of the natural man still exist within us. Tribulation has a way of bringing to light the remnants of the natural man that still reside within us. Unlike the God in Thomas Brown's poem, who seems content to let us be small and full of self, our loving Father offers us tribulation to poke and to prod us to empty ourselves of self, that we might be filled with his light instead. When we brought Chetna home from the orphanage in Calcutta, we didn't know that she wouldn't be able to move her fingers, hands, and arms to sign as a way of communicating, that she wouldn't be able to swallow sufficiently well to gain weight and thrive, that she wouldn't walk or talk, and that the only muscle groups that she would be able to control at will are those that control her smile. In short, we didn't know that she would have quadriplegic cerebral palsy. We didn't know any of these things. All of these conditions would be revealed to us over time. But God knew. And in his infinite kindness, he gave Chetna her sight and her smile, that she might have one avenue of communication with her world. Now, many might think that Chetna's smile is the smile of someone mentally deficient, that she is unaware of her circumstances and therefore incapable of true and meaningful choice. They would be wrong. Chetna is whole in mind and soul. It is her body that is afflicted. She chooses her responses to her conditions and tribulation just as freely as you and I choose ours. Through her pattern of choices, Chetna has become my greatest teacher of how to bear my burdens with greater grace and patience. She teaches me how to suffer long, to be kind, to bear all things, and to endure all things. Thus, when she smiles, the light she is carrying emanates from her soul. She reassures me that God is real and that all is well because we have his love.
This devotional address with Sterling Hilton was given on October 13th, 2015.